Ladies and
gentlemen, here we are once again, recapping another awesome event, Hell or High Water. I am the host of Explosive Professional Wrestling, Jamie Dura, and joined, as always, by my co-host, me, Dean Olsen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of Explosive Pro Wrestling, Dean Olsen, joined by my co-commentator, Jamie Dura. We are here to recap Explosive Pro Wrestling, Hell or High Water 2013. Huge show, you should have been there, but if you weren't, here's what you missed out on. What do we start with, Jamie?
Well, we started out with what we thought was going to be Massive taking on the Dropkicks, but unfortunately, Mad Mike Massive suffering a fat-related injury and unable to compete tonight.
He actually injured his leg, in all truthfulness, and we all hope for Mike Massive to have a speedy recovery, but filling his massive boots was the Iron Man, David Storm. Great to see in action in Explosive Pro Wrestling as always.
Well, the Dropkicks certainly had their work cut out for them, going up against the Iron Man David Storm and Gavin the Shoot Fighter McGavin, and they couldn't get the job done.
They were very impressive in the early going. They isolated Gavin McGavin, did some great double team maneuvers, fought a very good game plan, but in the end, not good enough to take out the Shoot Fighter and the Iron Man. But that wasn't the end of it, was it?
That was not the end of it. After the match, we saw the Warship
came back and made his presence felt yet again in Explosive Pro Wrestling and just speared Gavin McGavin out of his boots and socks.
I'm going to ask, what is the deal with the Warship? At the last show, we saw him win a match over Troy.
Sanctioned match.
A sanctioned match. 7 seconds was all it took for him to beat someone. He's not on this card, and he takes it upon himself to get into people's business, to spear Gavin McGavin and go eye to eye with David Storm.
McGavin was just another victim. Who knows what we'll see next from the Warship. Last month at EPW's Evolution, William Darcy made an interesting stipulation for Chris Weiss. He told him he needs to win 5 matches in a row to become a permanent part of the EPW roster again and to also get a shot at the EPW Championship. Last month, he was victorious. Tonight, he had to face 2 competitors.
Not one, but 2 men. Team Botch.
Team Botch, the Bolly Boy, Eddie Bombay, and Twitch up against Chris Weiss. In the early goings, Team Botch did quite well against Chris Weiss, double teaming him as much as possible, but it was short-lived to say the least. But in the end, Chris Weiss managed to get the better of both of them, nailing all his signature powerhouse maneuvers, and in the end got the victory. That's victory number 2 of 5 for Chris Weiss, closer to a permanent contract and an EPW title match.
That's right, he only needs 3 more wins, and he gets his EPW title shot. And I think he comes that much closer to dropping William Darcy on top of his head. And then we had Husey, the man from down the local, the lovable larrikin, the guy who just can't give up the booze, up against the Don, Michael Morleone, who had in his corner one part of the threesome, Lucky Boland.
Better known as the Triforce of Power. Interesting matchup, the Don, Michael Morleone, current EPW Hardcore Champion, in a match with Husey, and well, it's pretty safe to say that in the early goings, Husey just wasn't quite on his game.
Well, I have to say, in Husey's corner, we have Coach Banks, who has him on this new training regime, which involves giving up the booze. Husey is 90 days sober, and I have said before that Husey would be well advised to get back on the grog. But I've had a heart-to-heart with myself, and I've come to realise that Husey is a role model, and he has to set an example for the children, like I do. And he has to follow Coach Banks' advice, and even if he loses every single match in professional wrestling for the rest of his natural life, he's got to stay off the grog.
I could not disagree with you more. I've always said that he should, stay off the grog and get back into his game plan of, exercise and more, but I disagree. He had a sip of that Emu Export tonight and was a changed man. He was just taking the Don apart after getting some of that sweet booze into his system. I think Coach Banks should reform a new game plan involving plenty of booze for Husey in the future.
Well, Dean Austin, you are wrong.
Nonetheless, the Don Michael Morleone ended up getting the victory here tonight with the Cobra Clutch. Next, we had a match that is so very long in the making. The Brothers Schmidt, since departing as a tag team last year, finally had their one-on-one matchup here at Hell or High Water. And it was an I Quit matchup.
What a brutal match. We saw everything thrown between Bruiser Barry and Gorgeous Gary in this match. Tables.
Kendo sticks.
Chairs.
Thumbtacks.
Bruiser Barry had a drop-dead Gorgeous not once, but twice into thumbtacks.
And then he was duct taped to the ring ropes. And that was when he just gave up straight away. He just said, I quit, because his brother was going to nail him with a steel chair shot.
In the end, Gorgeous Gary proved that he was the better man, and Bruiser Barry quit. And then we had the man who just last month came within an inch of becoming the next EPW champion, Alex AK-47 Kingston, going up against Jared Slate.
The twisted and sick individual that is Jared Slate. Now, of course, he knew last month that Alex Kingston dislocated his shoulder in his match with Marcus Pitt, and from the very beginning of that matchup, he targeted the shoulder of Alex Kingston, threw him into the steel ring post, and just did not let up one bit. But he would keep going back to the shoulder of Alex Kingston. But in the end, Alex Kingston fought so very hard in despite of his shoulder injury and managed to get the 1-2-3 over Jared Slate. Then we had a one-on-one matchup between two of EPW's hottest rising stars. On one side, you had the massive monster known as Dorian, and on the other side, you had Troy.
Can you say his last name?
He doesn't have a last name. His name's Troy.
Oh. Well, you know, Troy certainly has a lot of guts, not a lot of experience, not a lot of skill, and not a lot of brains by going up against Dorian. He slapped Dorian in the face and he paid the price. Massive choke slam, and the monster Dorian making an exclamation point and making his presence felt. Now I have to say, Dean Olsen, I've been looking for my protege. I've been looking for someone to carry on the good name of Jamie Duran in explosive professional wrestling. Someone to carry us into the future. And could it be Dorian?
Nobody cares. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we had a humongous main event. Your EPW Hell or High Water 2013 main event. Of course, it was the team of Sebastian Sander, Hollywood Kyle Sterry, and the Prince of Perth, Jay Taylor, up against
Marcus Pitt, Dan Moore, and we thought it was going to be Chase Griffin, but Chase Griffin out of Hell or High Water with a serious injury, so serious that we've heard that Griffin may be considering retirement. That left a spot open in the main event, and who took that? Hayden Zenith.
We saw a fantastic six-man tag team main event, but the stipulation was, if the team of Sander, Stereo, or Taylor managed to get the pinfall victory or a win over any of the opposition, they would be the new EPW champion.
Terrible stipulation for Marcus Pitt. Anyone on his side gets pinned, he loses his title. And that is what happened. Sebastian Sander got the pin on Hayden Zenith. Zenith thought he could get into the main event and prove himself, but all he ended up doing was costing Pitt his title.
And Sebastian Sander is your new EPW champion.
That brings us to our next show. EPW presents Vendetta, July 6th at Body Slam Central, the Cyril Jackson Rec Centre. And my co-host wants to see you there, don't you, Dean?
He's my co-host, and I want to see you there.